Good morning, beautiful friends. How are you all today? I hope you're well. It's quite early for me for once. Can you hear the birds in the background? Yeah, it's the morning. I've actually managed to get my butt down here and into gear in the morning. It's about 8:30. The sun is up. It's about 15 degrees centigrade, which now I'm going to try and do the Fahrenheit conversion that Michelle sent me. So 15 centigrade, double it, 30, add 30, 60 Fahrenheit, yay! And we'll be getting up to about 20 today. Double 20 is 40, add 30, that's 70. Such a great and simple equation. Thank you, Michelle. So now, I wasn't supposed to be here at all today. I had a whole lot of other stuff planned. I'm going to talk about the rain again, forgive me. The point is, I've been a little bit behind with the garden this year anyway, and the weather is, of course, it's always going to impact on us as gardeners. And there are times when we just have to be a bit flexible because of the weather. So, do you remember in my last video, that day, it was a gorgeous day, and I got the garlic out because we were due rain the next day. Well, the rain came, brilliant. It rained pretty much all day, maybe about 12 hours or so. It was only quite a light rain, but it rained nonetheless. So when I'd taken the garlic out, I was really, really dismayed at the state of the soil. It's just awful concrete chunks. So I'd left it as open as possible. We had that full day of rain. I came back the next day, which was yesterday, hoping that the rain would have helped to soften it. It had barely touched it. The problem is, when my soil gets so compact, the rain just can't get in. It just runs off. So I spent a rather, I might have said some naughty words, a rather frustrating hour just bashing it down into smaller chunks. And I know there's probably 100 million people out there saying, well, not 100 million, I don't have that many watchers, but I know there's probably tons of you saying, go no dig, Vivi, get compost in, put some compost on the top. I don't have any, and I don't have access to any without it costing me a fortune. And seriously, if I had a spare tenner, I wouldn't be spending it on compost, I'd be spending it on, oh, I don't know, a new item of clothing or something. Anyway, the point is, that one day of rain had made virtually no difference. And the reason I'm here today, I'm going to be doing some of the jobs that I plan to do in the week anyway, but one of my main jobs is we are now due to have 4 days of rain, 4 full days of rain. And when I was getting the garlic out, and it was quite disheartening, I was thinking, oh goodness me, the broad bean bed is probably going to be similar. I showed you already that big crack in the ground the other day. That's the broad bean bed. So obviously I've been planning this week to get all my broad beans harvested anyway, and get that bed ready for the coco de Paimpol to go in. So I thought, if I do that today, I know it's going to be, I just know the ground is going to be horrible. But at least, excuse me, at least if I can get it forked up, bashed down a bit into smaller chunks, then hopefully with 4 full days of rain, by the time I come back to the garden next weekend, it will be workable. I can get it at least worked into a bed that's decent enough to get the coco de Paimpol into. It will be interesting to see how the broad bean bed is, because last autumn, before I planted them all, I had about half to 2/3 of my compost bin full of really good compost, and I put it all in the broad bean bed, all of it. And then as we came into the spring and I took the covers off, so the covers, the Enviromesh cover will have given it some protection against the pelting rain over the winter. Took the covers off, the ground was beautifully moist, and I got it mulched with a load of leaves. let's see if that's made any difference. Anyway, so that's the main job today, is to get the broad beans harvested, get that bed emptied and semi-prepped. And then there are a few other bits and bobs to do too. So there's no time like the present. Let's get on. I say that, but actually it's so peaceful. It's Sunday morning. There's no one around. It's about 8:30 in the morning. There's no one here. I just want to sit. I think I might do that to start my day. I might just sit for 5 minutes and then we'll go and get on with the work. Before I go and get stuck into the broad beans, I thought I'd show you what I'm dealing with this. This is the ex-garlic bed, and this is what I feel for the broad beans. I don't know if you can get a sense of this. Let me just grab a handful of soil to show you. Look, I mean, it's just boulders, absolute boulders. There's no way I can plant anything in this, so there is a little bit of moisture down there. Great. I mean, that's a little bit better. So what I'm planning, what I'm hoping is that over these days of rain, some rain can get into these really hard lumps, help soften them a bit, and then I can think about planting. So what I also did when I bashed this down, I've given it a scattering of the chicken poo pellets. Let me just show you. I don't think I've ever shown you these close up. There's some lying around on the surface. So that they come, bear with me a sec. They come as these little dried pellets. So it's ideal to scatter them before the rain comes, and then they start to sort of not dissolve. Dissolve's the wrong word. I can never find the right word. Reconstitute, whatever. But yeah, the rain softens them. They fluff up, and then they're easy to. I was going to say they're easy to rake in. I don't think I can rake anything into this at the moment. This pile of rubble, but. Trying not to despair of my soil. This is how all my soil has been forever. And like I was saying the other day, this bed had the potatoes in it before the garlic. And after the potatoes came out, I put a load of compost in before I put the garlic in. It's been mulched, but it's still like this. By the time the flint corn and the peppers come out, this bed will have been in action for 18 months. So since March last year, in 2018, when I put the potatoes in, right through to, it'll be sort of September, October 2019. But when those things come out, especially with the flint corn, all of the green material on the flint corn, I'll chop up, spread it out, get this lot covered in cardboard, and then hopefully for next year, good morning Rusty, and hopefully for next spring it will have helped a bit. I think it's time for a cuddle. Rusty, I can't cuddle yet, I haven't done any work. Oh, you cutie. You cutie, aren't you? Oh, are we going to have tummy rubs? I think we're going to have a little tummy tickle, excuse me. Oh, dafty, aren't you? Oh yes, oh yes, is that good? Oh yes, Rusty. This is not what I came to the garden for, but I've got to say, I quite like it, buddy. Oh yes. Oh, is that nice? Oh, this is what life's about, isn't it? Look at that little tummy. Look at those little pink pads. You're always a gorgeous boy. Right, should we go and do some work? Yes, come on, buddy. Stop cuddling. It's time to work. Oh, maybe 2 more minutes. Now before I even start harvesting, my really important job of the morning is to identify the plants I'm going to leave for seed saving. With all the plants that I'm saving seed from, as the season goes on, I've generally got my eye on the plants that I want to keep. Initially I thought these looked like a really healthy bunch in this corner. They flowered early, they've had really beautiful pods on them. So I had been thinking about this clump. However, I don't know if you can see this. Can you make this out? This is that raspberry. It's turning into a monster in my bed, and there's more of it down there. So actually, I want to get these out so I can dig this blasted raspberry out that keeps coming back every year. So I don't think I'm going to save those for seed, but this little lot, let me just show you one. I'm going to harvest one and show you, but that lot look great for seed saving. My only dilemma with those is they're at the front of the bed, the south end of the bed, so they're going to cast too much shade onto the Coco de Paimpol. Well, in theory, yes, but actually they will start dying back soon, and so they're not going to be bushy, so there shouldn't be as much shade. Dilemmas. Anyway, what I wanted to show you is, look at the size of this beauty. I can't remember whether I mentioned it when I was sowing last October, but previously I've always sown the variety Aquadulce Claudia. It's an absolute bog standard autumn sown broad bean, but there's quite a lot of Aquadulce Claudia in there because that was the seed I had saved. But I was also given a small handful of the Super Aquadulce, and they are considerably longer. I reckon there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 beans in there, as opposed to normally it would kind of end about there. So now that I'm looking at both, I can't decide. No, I think for seed saving I'm going to go with the ones a ways down there on the path. The only thing as well is they're a bit over the path, so I'm going to need to put some new stakes in and tie them up. And therein is another problem. Will I be able to get any stakes in? Who knows? Anyway, time to get harvesting. So if you've not grown broad beans before, the easiest way to harvest is you sort of pull slightly down, so hold the plant. This is especially when you're just harvesting a few at a time. Today I'm going to take everything that's left out of this bed, but if you're just doing a few at a time, hold the plant, give it a bit of support and a bit of a gentle tug down. I have in the past not held and supported the plant and ended up massacring the plant. And then when these go home, you know, in some ways ideally it would be the last job of the day in order to keep them fresh. But at the moment, I can't even think about things like that. I've just got to get on and do things. But I'll get them all off. They'll stay in their pods while they're here. I'll put them in a little shady corner so they don't wilt too much. Get them home, pod them. They'll go straight into the freezer. Well, I'll have a few tonight, but generally they'll go straight into the freezer, and then I'll bring the pods back with me and they'll go in the compost. Yay! The cycle of life. course the easiest thing to do, because the crop is actually over, is to just whip each plant out, get it out, strip it, and clear the space. So yes, in theory, chink, 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 I could do a crop and drop here, where I just cut everything down to ground level, and then I'd leave all that lovely material to wilt on the surface, and let the worms take it down. However, two things. One, I'm about to plant straight in here, but actually you could do that. You could do the crop and drop, just move things aside and plant through. But I know this soil is absolutely, it's so compact. To be honest, I don't think the cocos would stand a chance if I just put them straight into this. So I am going to clear and not drop, but of course this will all go in the compost. So, you know, it's not like, it's not a total waste. And it should actually, this should all rot down pretty quickly. Talking of compost, I have been, oh, stripped that one bare already. I have been doing what I set out at the beginning of the year to do, which is, I've got that, my big round Dalek compost bin is still full of quite brown stuff, so cardboard and bits of the bean vines from last year which didn't decompose over the winter. And these days, literally every time I add anything green, I get a handful of the brown stuff and add that at the same time. And it's going down really quickly, so it must have been maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, maybe 4, actually time's marching on, isn't it, maybe 5 weeks ago, 6 even, it doesn't matter, but when I cleared out all the remains of the brassicas and chopped them up, I was chopping them up, adding a bit of brown, chop them up, add a bit of brown. The lid of the compost bin was barely fitting on. And I just checked on it a couple of days ago, and it's already gone down to half. So it's obviously composting well and quickly for me. So because I've got masses and masses of green today, I don't know if I'll get round to it today. But what I was thinking is that I will get into that bin, probably empty the whole thing out by way of turning it before I add all this. And if in the bottom, if I've got anything halfway decent, I can add it to this bed. Because like the garlic bed, like I was mentioning with the garlic bed, it's been in action for 18 months. This bed will also be the same, because what was here last year? Yes, it was the cucumbers and peppers were in here. So the bed will have gone into use at the end of May. Then when they came out in the autumn, the broad beans went in. Now the coco de Pampolle are going in, and they'll be there until September or so. So again, it's another bed. It's almost 18 months it's been in use. So although I did give it a load of compost last autumn, ideally I'd like to get a load more in for the cocoa. And whatever happens, when the cocoa come out, just as I was mentioning with the garlic bed, whatever compost, whatever matter I've got, go on this bed, get covered in cardboard, and then it'll stay like that all winter, so that the bed gets a bit of a rest, gets a little bit of nutrient added back, give the worms a chance to do their thing, and then all being well, next spring this will be, looking down there, this will be next year's parsnip bed. Oh, it's funny, isn't it? I was saying the other day about this year, last year, next year. It's all, yeah, you know, We just have to plan, don't we? But it will definitely be good to give this bed a rest after 18 months of working super duper hard. Well, this is going to take me a little while, isn't it? So why don't you go and have a cup of tea or something? Oh, and then I've got to dig that pesky raspberry out. Hey, Poppy. You're going to help me pick the beans. This is a really happy harvest. Especially, oh my goodness, especially after getting the garlic out the other day. This has taken me ages. This has taken me probably the best part of an hour and a half to get it all harvested and all the other material chopped down. Let me give you a quick look at it because it's really beautiful, and I can't tell you how happy I am, because back in the autumn or coming into January, February, I had a couple of gaps in germination, and yeah, if you remember, I plugged them with the crimson broad bean, which had beautiful flowers. Oh, like myself. Gonna like myself. Yeah, it had beautiful flowers, but it was all fur coat and no knickers. They didn't come to anything, so they're all out too. They just didn't produce any pods. But yeah, I was in the very early spring, late winter, I was a little bit concerned about where I'd got gaps in germination, but I sort of looked at the ones I'd got and I thought, yeah, that should be okay for a harvest. And you know what? Let me show you this lot. I mean, come on. That's a whole wheelbarrow full. Zero complaints for me. To give you an idea how deep the wheelbarrow is. Yes, that is how many broad beans I've got. I've no idea how many pounds. It's quite heavy. Now I've got to get them home to get them podded. I'm just going to tuck them away in the shade somewhere so they don't start wilting. And I'm going to take you back down the garden to show you the bed without and what I'm about to do next. I'm so happy. So now I have an X broad bean bed. These ones are for my seed saving. You can see why they're all looking beautifully healthy and large. I didn't actually count how many pods, but I'm aiming for about 100 seeds. So what I've done with all of these is I've just cut out all the growing tips, any little side shoots, etc., etc. I don't want the plant putting any energy into any growth. It's now all about storing it in hopefully what will become beautiful seeds. Once they are dry and rattling on the pod, which will be probably into July, August maybe, I'll pod them, make sure they're thoroughly dry, and then they're going to get a 3-day freeze, as I learnt from the Coanga Institute down in New Zealand, just to make sure that there's nothing in there that will want to hatch in the spring and destroy my beautiful seeds. Okay, so that's my seeds. Obviously the rest of the bed is now empty, apart from the roots. You can see how well the mulch worked, because that is pretty much my only weed in the whole bed. A couple of other bits and bobs. So now what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to rake all this mulch off and save it, because I'll use it again to mulch the coco de pampol, and then over at this end deal with my forever problem of this raspberry. There's a bit, well, you can see the big one there, and then oh, I just get sprouts for everywhere. It's coming up there, it's coming up there. There was somewhere else over there that I got it out, another little one there. So yeah, that's another reason for properly getting my fork in there today is to try and get out as much of that as possible. I actually just saw my neighbour, whose this raspberry belongs to. Like I say, she didn't plant it, they never planted it. But we were just discussing it today because I don't think she'd realised quite what a problem it is in my bed each year until she saw the bed bare. And she was saying, what if she sort of takes this one out? But we were both saying probably if she took hers out and I took that out, it's still under the path. So then we actually discussed taking up the path too. But oh, that seems like so much of a palaver. So I'll just dig out as much as I can today. But this job that's coming up now, yes, I'll be honest, I'm dreading it. Because this ground is going to be hard. Okay, let's get a rake out, get this mulch off, save it. Actually, I don't even know how I'm going to put a stake in to tie up that one to get it off the path. I'll think of something. Right, time to get the fork out. Oh joy, and it's getting hotter by the minute. Hooey. You know, I'll be honest with you, that wasn't a lot of fun. Oh my goodness. Harvesting was great fun. Even chopping up all the material to go in the compost, don't mind that. Lovely. But that bed, getting my fork in it, absolute horror show. Well, anyway, look. It's taken way longer than I expected. The morning has flown. We're into the afternoon now. I've got an appointment, so I need to leave, unfortunately, because there were so many other things, little bits and bobs I wanted to do today. Never mind. I know the day has flown by and progressed because in the last hour or so there are suddenly about 30 other plot holders down here. It's lovely. It's always lovely. And pretty much everyone's got the same idea as me today because we've got this rain due. Everyone's going to try and break some ground today, so that rain's got half a chance. So all I can hear all around me is just people going, "Go, it's like concrete. Oh, this ground's horrible." It's just sort of cries of all over the site. Anyway, I thought I'd give myself a little sweet treat. So I'm going to have one of my, my first handful of my Kleiner Rheingarten. Oh, that's so good. That's my first fresh pea out of my garden in 2 years. Oh, I could cry, I'm so happy. And what I love, I just got a little handful of them. I love that. That pea squeak, I love it. So let me show you, see if I can show you. Can I do it back to front? I think I've picked them a little bit too early because they're still quite little. Oh, and they're gorgeous. Yeah, they're very little, very sweet and yummy. You see, there are days like today when I do a job that makes me despair a bit, like trying to get that bed ready for the coco de pampol. It does make me despair a little bit, but then I just get one little reward and I'm happy again. So some yummy peas. They never make it home, do they? Excuse me, mouthful talking. They're so good. Yeah, peas never make it home. But look, I've got all those broad beans to take home. I'll get podding those later this evening. First mouthful of peas, brilliant. And just to say, I shan't be throwing my pods away. I will be making pea pod soup later, which I will share with you all. But I haven't got enough at the moment, so quite simply, all I'll do is I'll just pop these in a bag, in the freezer for now, in a box, you know, in the freezer, and then when I've got enough I will make some yummy pod soup and I'll share that with you. So I think for now I'd better say I just want another one. Oh my giddy goodness, I can't get in this one. Oh, it's so burstingly full. I'm sorry, how rude. How very, very rude of me. Would you like one? There you go. It's definitely time for me to say cheerio. Hurrah for broad beans. Hurrah for peas. Hurrah for all the beautiful food we get from our gardens. Even if there are days when it's quite hard work, it's so worth it. So listen, if you've got a bit of a hard job that you've been putting off, why don't you just go and do it now? The sooner you do it, the sooner you get it done, the sooner you can forget it, and then the sooner you can sit down with your peas and scoff. Yeah, so go on, hop it you lot, go and get on with that task you've been putting off. I will see you all again really soon, but in the meantime, take care of yourselves. Cheerio.